the person who I'm about to announce is somebody who is passionate about what he does. He is an entrepreneur in his own right, but he is someone who loves connecting people, and you can see that in his passion. Amit Kumar, who will be speaking, is a Cal grad, first of all. He is an EECS grad. He can't seem to get enough of founding companies, so he did it 3 times. And 3 times must be a charm, because the 3rd time he sold CardSpring to Twitter. So it'll be interesting to hear about that. And then he did a bit of a pivot. I'm sure he did pivots that he'll tell us about, but he shifted over to be part of Excel Partners. And if Excel is not familiar to you, if you are at all interested in entrepreneurship, you want to know about Excel Partners and what they have to say. So Amit will talk to us a little bit about his journey, and then we'll have a fireside chat about what's happening at Excel Partners and maybe what you all can think about when you are dealing with, as I hope some of you will, with VCs. And on that note, go Bears. Amit, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Vicki. Thanks for having me. It's a huge honor to be here. I've admired the Newton series from afar. There's just such an incredible lineage of speakers, so it's a real privilege to be here. I would love to start out by saying I remember what it was like when I sat in your chair, but the reality is the Newton series was incepted after I left. And Berkeley was a really different place back then. Entrepreneurship wasn't really accessible to us. No one we knew was an entrepreneur. No famous entrepreneurs seemed like they were from Berkeley. And things have changed a lot on campus today. But there's still this mythology that Berkeley doesn't produce great entrepreneurs, which is ridiculous because we do. Berkeley has produced some of the most relevant, important, I guess, highest worth companies in the world. But whatever reason there is, we just don't wear it on our sleeve. So you wouldn't know that half of these companies actually came out of our ecosystem. So what I'm here to do, what I hope you get out of my talk, is to figure out that entrepreneurship is accessible to us, to people at Berkeley, to students at Berkeley, that students before you went on to start great companies, and that there really is no difference between you and them. And so I want to walk you through my journey and how I went from being an engineer to an entrepreneur to a venture capitalist. It's not really that glamorous. You'll find that there's a lot of failure along the way, but ultimately you just need a lot of the characteristics that Vicki was talking about. Perseverance, resilience, and really just the desire to go pursue this path. So let's start off at the beginning. This is who I am, Amit. This is my background. I went to UC Berkeley, graduated in 2003. Then I went to Microsoft and started 3 companies. And I like to say that they are, I became progressively less of a failure because the first 2 failed. And the last one, we had a moderate success. And now I'm at Excel Partners. And so we'll go back to the beginning, Berkeley. Like many of you here, I'm an engineering major. I was an EECS major. I lived at Clark Kerr, which is, obviously where all the engineers live, right? That makes lots of sense. I took most of the, same classes I'm sure some of you are taking. A lot of, actually, it's surprising, a lot of the machine learning, AI classes are newer, so those weren't even options for us back then. I did a bunch of activities. I was on rally committee for a minute. That's right. I was in the ASUC and somehow got convinced into running for Senate as a freshman, which was a terrible/amazing idea. We formed this thing called a Cal cricket team, which is absurd, but yes, that's true. I did the whole Indus thing for...
Maybe you should say that cricket is a sport.
Cricket is a sport. All right, Vicki, I'm looking at you. All right. And I tutored at the SLC. And I finished school here in 3 years and left for, I would say, greener pastures. But let me tell you about a couple takeaways I had from Berkeley. So number one, this is an incredible place. And you might not really fully internalize that while you're here. But let me tell you, like Berkeley on your resume, just having gone here is going to serve you for the rest of your life. And I don't mean even just the incredible people that you're surrounded by or the professors here, which are just unbelievable. But just even being part of this ecosystem is just such an amazing asset to have, and you're really privileged to be here. You need to get out of your comfort zone. I would say that some of the best classes I took were non-CS classes, so you're at a world-class institution. My advice to you is, despite whatever your major is, make time to experience other things. go out, try activities that you have no business doing, run for Senate, do whatever it is. Actually, my biggest regret from Berkeley is not doing study abroad. I finished in 3 years, which sounds cool, but I wish I had actually spent another year and traveled abroad, just because it's such a unique time in your life when you can do these things and you don't have a ton of responsibilities. I've never met anyone who did study abroad who regretted it. Let's put it that way. A little bit of planning goes a long way. So I'm not some like super uber genius that I graduated in 3 years. The reality is I got bored one day in freshman year and just kind of mapped out what classes I needed to take. I didn't even do summer school. I just had done a lot of AP classes, got a lot of credit for it, and just fit the Tetris pieces in the right way so that I could finish early. Ask for what you want. I think this is a lesson all Berkeley kids kind of internalize. Berkeley is not the place, for better or worse, where the administrators are holding your hand through the process, right? You have to go out and get what you want. No one is going to know that you want to do a research project. No one is going to know that you need help on your homework. No one is going to know that you want quality time with a professor. Berkeley teaches you that, and honestly, the reality is that's how the real world works. Like the Stanford kids might have their personal concierge lead them through college, but the reality is that stops when you leave college. No one is there to handhold you through the rest of your life, and that's an incredible lesson that Berkeley teaches you. And honestly, it's kind of a hard lesson to learn when you're here and you wish there was more of that, but it's a great asset for you once you leave here. And kind of an aside, but take your internship super seriously. This is kind of something no one really talks about. I think people just kind of fall into internships or whatnot. Companies on the other side view internships as their best possible recruiting channel. That's how they find their best people. And students need to view it as their best recruiting channel too. If you get a good internship and you do well there, you'll almost certainly get an offer. It's the best way to get into some of the best companies in the world. So, some lessons. All right, let me tell you a story from my time at Berkeley. So I told you I took a bunch of AP classes and I got a lot of credit. So one of those classes was computer science. And so somehow they decided I didn't need to take CS61B, which if you're not a CS major, is like the core algorithms class in CS, right? And I thought, well, that's stupid because my high school teacher, as much as I love him, he's not as good as Professor Hilfinger, right? Like that guy's the man, right? This is what I heard. And so I thought like, I'm gonna retake that class, or I'm gonna enroll, even though I don't really need to, but because I wanna get the fundamentals right, and that's super important. And at the same time, I decided to take CS 150, which, if you don't know, is like a senior project class, and it's really goddamn hard. And I had no idea. I was a third semester kid at this point. And the professor somehow let me in, even though it's like a senior class, and he was just like, in typical Berkeley fashion, I'll let you in, but if you fail, it's your problem. And I was like, all right. And so I thought I could handle both of these classes at the same time, and boy, was I wrong. 150 basically swallowed my entire life. I didn't see my girlfriend for the whole semester, basically. I didn't attend a single lecture of 61B, actually, in the end. And in fact, our final project, I remember me and my partner, I think we'd gotten 1 hour of sleep over the course of 3 days and 2 nights to finish the last. It was insane. It was the hardest I've ever worked in my life, ever, which is crazy. We finished the project, and my partner, this was at midnight. Midnight was the deadline. We were in the lab. We got the approval. My partner went home, and I had to walk across from Corey Hall to go to Soda and code on the last 61B project for another goddamn 14 hours. It was the worst, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But that's what Berkeley's like. You have those kind of insane experiences. I don't know. All right, so anyways, I graduated. Yay. I don't look that different from it, actually. I pulled out the photo today, and I was like, oh, you know what? I've done okay. It could be much worse. It could be much, much worse. Anyways, I got a job at Microsoft. And let me, so for each, kind of each part of my life, I'm just going to tell you, what was I thinking when I made that step, kind of what happened, and then just, what the takeaways were. So for Microsoft, this is my thought process, and honestly, it wasn't really that baked. It was one of the most established companies at the time. I got the highest salary by staying in the Bay Area. So it's kind of interesting. They have a salary, it's called your Redmond salary, Redmond and Washington, and then they do a cost of living adjustment for the Bay Area. So that's kind of how I made my decision. Well, I was like, oh, of course I want to live in the Bay. That makes lots of sense. I was joining one of the main teams there, Office and PowerPoint, so it was a cool team to join. And what happened? I learned how to be a great engineer. And it's one thing to be a great student, but that is very, very different than being a great engineer in the real life, or whatever it is, being a great PM. Because there's so many aspects to the job that are very different than being able to solve an algorithm or produce an algorithm. Like for example, and just a basic example is code reviews. Code reviews are a major part of your life as an engineer, and you just don't do that in school, right? And so there's just so many aspects to it. I went through an entire shipping cycle. So at the time, people didn't deploy 20 times a day. They deployed one time every 4 years. And so that was the office cycle. So it was really nice and actually quite interesting to go through the entire cycle to see something from inception and ideation to building the product to the QA cycles. I quickly became a tech lead. Again, this is kind of almost counterintuitive, but when you're young, you don't have tons of responsibilities. You can just outwork everyone you're surrounded by. And particularly in tech, there is no kind of long hierarchy of you have to put in the 12 years before you can make it big or be recognized or gain that kind of responsibility. You can do that extremely quickly. I worked with incredible people, so blessed. Just a quick note, always be respectful of whoever you work with. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization. I remember we had these 2 interns. And they're interns, right? Like at some companies, people mistreat interns. Well, one of them runs design for Facebook now, and one of them started a small photo sharing app. You might have heard of it, but I'll tell you later which one it is, so we'll get into that. But one of the things that I hear the most often from kids when I come back to Berkeley is, I want to join a startup, I want to join a startup, and obviously it's the hot thing to do. But I just want to point out that working at a big company is underrated. It's actually a great place to start, just because you build out a network, you meet people your age, you build out that foundational network, right? If you join a company with 3 people in it, you're going to be spending all your time with those 3 people, and maybe you don't like 2 of them. Now you have like 1 friend, right? Like it's actually quite. You'd be surprised. It's harder to make friends in the real world than you think. And so at school, you're obviously in this like amazing, social situation where there are just people everywhere you go. But in the real world, people have this, like hashtag no new friends, right? Like people just want to stick to the people they know. And so actually, most people end up making their friends through work. And so it's actually kind of nice to go to a big place. You learn how to be a professional, which is super important. And it just gives you something to fall back on, in case you join a startup. One of the risks people don't really talk about is you join a small startup, no one's ever heard of it, and then suppose it doesn't go well, which obviously is the likely outcome. You don't have as much to fall back on. Obviously this is Berkeley, so it's great. You have that on your resume, which is nice. Join something that's growing. At the time, Microsoft had kind of hit its apex, I would say, of where it was in that kind of cycle. Now it's kind of on a resurgence. But today, I would say, join Stripe. You would join companies that I think are almost over the hill. Even Snapchat, I would join, right? Even though it's just about to go public, but it's still, in my opinion, a big company. You can get all those benefits that I was talking about. Always go to headquarters. So I worked here in Silicon Valley instead of going to Redmond. That's a mistake, to be completely honest. It caps what you can accomplish. It caps how much you can rise in the organization. So wherever you go, so if you want to work at Snapchat, I would go to LA. I wouldn't work in the SF office. Shipping is one of the most important skills, and this is throughout your whole life. So there's obviously more engineering focus or product focus, but just getting shit done is the most important thing. That is the biggest differentiator between winning and losing. So learn, that was one of the things I learned there. And invest in building relationships with the people around you. I think too often, I was guilty of this, right? You want to network with the director or the VP or the CEO, but the reality is the most important network you can build is with the people around you, because they're the future directors, VPs, and CEOs. If I had become friends with Steve Ballmer, it'd be cool because I could get courtside tickets to the Clippers, but I don't think he would get me a job, or he'd be really helpful to start a company with or whatnot. So I was talking about those 2 interns, and so one of them is, she runs all design for Facebook. She made a really good decision joining them. And then the other started a small photo sharing app, which we've all heard of, called Instagram. So yeah, be nice to everyone. That's an important lesson. All right, cool. So anyways, I'd done my tour of duty at Microsoft, and I thought, hey, it's time to start a company. And again, I don't think the decision-making process was really that big, and I can just walk you through what I was thinking. I wanted to start a company. I know that sounds stupid, but I just kind of wanted to. I thought it was something I should do, and people had been telling me like, oh yeah, you'd be great at starting a company, even though they had no idea what that meant. I paired up with a really good friend of mine from Berkeley. He had a very different skill set. He was really good at online marketing. I was really good at engineering. We thought together we could come up with something interesting. We ran a few really lucrative experiments. So when we were both in our full-time jobs, we ran a few experiments. We were actually doing extremely well, and we thought we could sustain that and go start something interesting. And I felt like I could always go back to Microsoft. Like, what's the downside? Why not? So we did it. So what happened? We bootstrapped the company, which is a fancy way of saying we didn't get paid. And we didn't get paid for 9 months, basically, because whatever money we made, we poured it back into the company. We didn't really have the ability to hire exceptional people. And this is a red flag, and I'll talk about this in a minute, what that means. We found moderate success, but no real traction, no vector for explosive growth, certainly not what I was in it for. And in a way, we were actually the bootstrapping kind of worked against us. Because we were trying to get back to where we were with our nice cushy salaries at a big company, we kind of lost sight of the bigger vision of what we were trying to build, and we're just trying to make money doing whatever the hell we were doing. And so in a lot of ways, I think it was a massive failure. But failure and success, they're not binary. It's not like 100-0, right? The reality is the company was making good money. We ended up, my co-founder ended up selling the company. He did extremely well. But in terms of what I wanted to get out of the experience, I didn't get that. And so I decided to move on. But the takeaways were, you need to dream big. And I think that was honestly the biggest problem, is we didn't really dream big. And I think maybe that's a reflection of our self-belief at the time. We didn't think we could do it. But I would just say to you that starting a company is so hard, and so many things have to go right. You have to get along with your co-founders. You have to hire the right people. You have to find product market fit. And all that stuff is so hard anyways that it better be worth it if you succeed at that, right? And if you just aim too low, it's just not worth the effort. Hiring and fundraising are really good forcing functions. The reality is most of your peers are going to be supportive. Your parents typically are very supportive. And so if you're saying I'm starting a company, tell people your idea, they're going to tell you it's a great idea. But then maybe you should ask them for $25,000. And then they'll be like, whoa, I don't know about that, right? And so if you can't get anyone exceptional to decide to join your company, maybe what you're working on isn't that exciting, right? If you can't get an investor to give you a little bit of money, maybe what you're doing isn't that exciting, And so for us, when we were at the big company, I wish we had actually gone out and done the fundraising and gotten the feedback, no, what you're working on is awful. Dear God, don't go do that. And, would have saved me 18 months. But anyways, this is another kind of strange one. And keep in mind that this company happened in kind of a pre-YC era, so it's not like there was a lot of information out there. But it just honestly doesn't make any sense to me. We were scared to tell people what we were working on. And I think some of that comes from a fear of maybe they won't like it. And some is this weird concept that someone's going to steal your idea. No one is ever going to steal your idea, ever. Just think about it. They're going to drop what they're working on. They're going to drop their whole life to go steal your shitty idea. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. People thought Snapchat was stupid even when they had 10 million users. You have 0 users. No one's going to steal it, I promise you. And in fact, if you start telling people your idea, you'd be surprised the amount of help and advice and love you start getting. The Bay Area is so special. It's one of the most special places in the world. And one of the reasons why is because here I feel people want you to succeed and help you to succeed. And if you don't tell people what you're doing, you're kind of preventing that from happening. If you have an idea and you tell someone, even if they're not interested, well, first of all, they'll give you feedback, but if it is good, they'll intro you to someone who'll intro you to someone, or maybe that person's looking to join something. And so communicate, it's super important. Make sure you're aligned with your co-founders on what success looks like. I think it's super easy to get excited about starting a company with a friend, but I think the good analogy here is going on a vacation with a friend. Sometimes that just goes bad, right? And sometimes 2 really great friends suck at going on a vacation together, right? And so just being as clear and upfront as possible as to what the goals are, what you're both trying to get out of it is super important. And then make a plan for what happens if it doesn't work out, Maybe doing a prenup in a marriage is a little bit controversial, but doing a prenup in a startup is mandatory. You need to know what's going to happen if one of you decides to leave in a year. And when you're starting a company, you're both so excited about it that you don't really think about those things, but it is a mandatory, I would say, mandatory part of starting a company because life changes, things change and people change. Super important. All right, so anyways, jump ship and went to company number 2, Betable. So what's Betable? Betable's crazy. Betable's an insane idea. We built an online gambling social network for real money. The idea was that you can bet with your friends on anything. So you could bet on whether the education secretary was going to be confirmed today, for example. Sorry, too soon? All right. Okay, so what was I thinking of? So first of all, this is around 2007. So we're trying to capitalize on 2 major secular trends. And this is a good way to think about startups. Like, why is a lot of startups fail because no one cares about what you're building. But a lot of that not caring has to do with timing. Right, for example. So like Webvan was awful and Instacart is successful, and it's pretty much the same thing, and obviously the operations are different, but one of the reasons is maybe we're more prepared for that, we're ready for that today. So you want to think about like what are the trends, and so the trends we were capitalizing on at the time were user-generated content. I mean, this is gonna date me, but like YouTube was becoming a thing, right? And so people were creating content, and a lot of betting sites were, hey, here are the 4 things you can bet on. We just thought it'd be cooler if you could bet on anything. And social networking. Social networking was obviously like exploding, and so we thought we could add a few social networking elements. My co-founder wanted to shoot for the moon, and that's exactly what I kind of was needing at that moment. He was insanely ambitious, and I mean that in a great way. It's a sexy idea, and don't, one of the kind of, I think, misnomers in the Valley is like idea doesn't matter, it's all about execution. And to some degree that's true, but having a sexy idea helps you recruit, it helps you hire, hire is the same thing as recruit, but helps you raise money, and it helps you get out of bed in the morning. Like if you're working on something big and ambitious, it helps. He'd already raised 1.5, and so what this meant is that we got to build out a whole team. We could really go out and raise a team, and that's what I wanted. I wanted that experience, and so that's what we went after. And so what happened? We hired an incredible team. And it's actually hilarious because at the beginning, it was just me and this guy, and we're in an office, which is obviously too big for us because we were like, of course we'll have like 5 people tomorrow, that's great. The first guy that we made an offer to, literally, he turned us down, and I swear to God, this is what he told us. He said, I told my wife that I'm gonna join this company with these 2 crazy guys. And his wife was like, no. That's what happened. We tried to hire this other guy, Andrew Cortina. He was friends with my co-founder. They knew each other, we interviewed him, we wanted to hire him, but he wasn't really into it. He was working on his own startup. It was this thing called Venmo. So that was a good decision. Again. And so, but the team we put together was incredible. I mean, actually looking back, it's astounding. One of them ran security for Dropbox. One of them basically runs all engineering for Stripe. One guy started a company that went into YC and sold it to Google. Like that's actually crazy, the kind of talent that we were able to accumulate. So that was incredible. We acquired a UK gambling license, which sounds kind of like routine, and let me tell you, it is impossible. It is basically impossible to get a gambling license. It's this weird catch-22 where you need a bank account to get a gambling license, but you can't get a bank account until you have the gambling license. It's impossible. I don't really quite know how he did it, but that was interesting. We built out a feature-rich application. Honestly, we basically copied Facebook. We built a almost working version of Facebook with notifications, newsfeed, everything. At the time, Facebook wasn't as complicated, but the real complication of Facebook is scale. And so just building out the features, with Ruby on Rails is actually not that difficult. And then we pitched all the VCs in the Valley, and we got told no a lot because at the time, and actually still, like gambling is kind of a no-no for VCs. But I pitched Excel, and actually we'll just put a bookmark in that of what that means. And we raised $3 million. It actually did happen. We raised it from Atomico, which is a UK-based VC. It's the founders of Skype and the founders of Kazan. So we found, a firm that believed in us. All told, we raised about $5 million. And we failed. And all those good things. What went wrong? And this talk isn't long enough for really me to go into all the things that went wrong. But one of the realities is building a consumer product is hard. And there is no magic bullet for that, you know. And ultimately, like if I were to really do an analysis, we built a product which was too complicated for casual gamblers. We built a product which was too simple for sophisticated gamblers. So we end up in this no man's land. We didn't really have a small group of people who loved our product. That's, you know, the long and short of it on that. So what were my takeaways? Dream big. This is going to be a consistent theme. This helped us recruit an amazing team. It helped us find funding. It helped me get up in the morning. I think it's the only way to go. We worked with incredible people. Again, consistent theme. Never compromise on the types of people you work with. I think it's incredibly important. Product market fit's the only thing that matters. I think there's two worlds in startups: pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. In case that's like a foreign term, basically that just means that you have something that works, something that people love, essentially, that you found some market for whatever product you're building. And so at the time, we built this gambling app, and no one really cared. And so that was, you know, it's easy to get focused on everything else, but basically, if you're pre-product market fit, that needs to be your only goal in life, is finding some group of people who like something you're building, and it's almost got to be fanatical, really. Fundraising is necessary, not important. This is really important to know. A lot of people celebrate like they're in the end zone. You know, they won the Super Bowl once they raise like a round of funding. It's totally not true. You just got a new set of downs. You just got a kickoff. The ball's at the 20. You have 4 downs. That's basically it, right? Fundraising, it's honestly just, you do it just so you can run your company, right? It's like breathing. Like, you know, breathing isn't the point of living, but you need to breathe in order to live. And so that's how you need to think about fundraising. We spent way too much time fundraising, and there are a lot of external circumstances for that, but we were doing a lot of premature optimization. You know, again, if you're pre-product market fit, nothing else matters. And so optimizing what your board looks like, or optimizing, you know, how much equity you have. I mean, obviously that's important, but you need to focus on what really matters. And, you know, not having pre-product market fit is existential for the company. No magic bullet for consumer. You could put together your dream team. We could have Mark Zuckerberg. We could have President Obama. It doesn't matter. We'd still make a social network for dogs. It's really hard. You know, I think consumer is very different than B2B that way. So actually, like, leaving this experience, I wanted to do something more B2B where I could kind of rig the cards in my favor. Whereas in consumer, you can't. It doesn't matter what you do. You have to just build something that just resonates with people, and it's hard. And know your customer. You know, I don't think we did a good enough job of traveling to, I mean, we spent a lot of time in the UK, but we're building for this customer that ultimately we didn't know well enough, right? That's how we built a product for a market segment, which didn't make sense. So anyways, story time. So I said fundraising was hard, and you know, sometimes things are out of your control. So we decided to raise, unbeknownst to us, during the 2008 financial crash. Which I think is probably the worst time in the history of mankind to raise money. So we were in New York, and we were sitting with 2 investors, and I swear to God, like 15 minutes in, they were getting texted, and they literally got up and left, and they said, we're gonna be bankrupt in 10 minutes, and we just need to go. And so that was a little strange. That hadn't happened before. Okay, and this one I'm particularly fond of. This is not our proudest moment. So we built a gambling app, and, you know, they say eat your own dog food, and we took it a bit literally. So what we did is we started running these. This is what happens when you have like 8 dudes at a company. We started doing these food eating contests. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe like Kobayashi or Joey Chestnut was like the rage. Started doing these food eating contests, and then we would bet on those, right? And so things got out of hand really quickly. So we did a couple at the office, then we decided we're gonna do one more at Armadillo Willie's. This is a terrible idea. So we went to Armadillo Willie's and we did a rib eating contest, okay? And at the time, there was this, you know, youngish, like, you know, he was like our age, like youngish PM out of Google. We'd been kind of recruiting him for a while. And he decided, you know, like he's trying to decide on this offer that we're doing. So we're like, hey, just come to this team event. Like, this will be fun, right? Well, what could go wrong? And so we did this rib eating contest, and up till today, it is the most disgusting event I've ever been affiliated with. I'm a small human being, I'm not that big. I ate 37 ribs. I finished second last, okay? Our intern ate 56 ribs, and it's amazing. We actually went skydiving the next day. And he had to pay a penalty fee because he was over the weight limit. So anyways, it was a horrendous human event, which I'm happy to explain more in detail, the details of it. But this PM was just aghast, and he was just like, look guys, I just can't go through with it. So, you know, I think we should have foreseen the outcome of that. So this PM, his name is Ben Silberman. He plucked out one of our employees, Paul Shara. They started another company, another photo thing. I don't know what's up with these photo things. It's called Pinterest. Yeah, so that was, yeah. I don't know. All your scrapbooking, I feel like I should get like a 10% cut or something. I don't know. I paid for it dearly with those ribs. So anyways, CardSpring. CardSpring was the next company I started, and I thought I would try to internalize a lot of the lessons I've been learning. And the first one was, fundraising was a disaster for us. It took 10 months. And so I wanted to pair up with someone who could shortcut that process, and I was kind of turned off from consumer just because of how hard it is. And I thought, like, look, let me try to rig the deck in my favor. So met up with an EIR, which is called an entrepreneur in residence. So it's basically someone at a VC firm that they like, that they want to fund. He doesn't really have an idea. And so we're going to pair you with people. So I got paired up with this guy, Eckert Walter, and two of my other, ex-coworkers from Betable. We all kind of formed together. And so we looked at what the trends were. And at the time, online to offline was hot. And so this is August 2010, okay? Groupon is the fastest growing company of all time. Square has just raised their Series A and hired Keith Raboy. Stripe has just been founded. So there's this kind of the kind of ecosystem of where we were. We had a great team, and I like to call it a minimum viable team. There were 4 of us, and we didn't really need to hire anyone else. We could do whatever we needed to do within this small group to get to product market fit, right? At Betable, we had overhired, we had this big team, we didn't really need that, we just needed to get a product market fit. So we internalized that lesson. This time we're gonna be better. We had an inside track to Excel, which from my last experience at Betable, pitching all the VCs, for whatever reason, I kind of fell in love with them. I thought they were the best VC and I wanted to work with them. And so pairing up with an Excel EIR seemed like a cheat code to me, so that's what I did. And they have a heavy or a highly leveraged network. So in a B2B startup, obviously your ability to sell into enterprise customers is the most important thing. And so this time I thought I could rig the deck in my favor. So this is what we did. Build something I can use. Well, this is also important. It's kind of underrated, but so when I was building the gambling product, I played a lot of poker, I played blackjack or whatever. The fact is you can't play a real money gaming product in the US, right? And so it was a product that ultimately I couldn't use. And that kind of sucks. Like, let me be honest. Like, I think you find a lot more passion building products that you can use yourself. So anyways, this time I was like, we're gonna build something I can use in the US. Here we go. What happened? So this is a bit of a longer story. So we had dozens of demos and prototypes and no funding and no pay. So for about 6 to 9 months, and we stayed extremely lean, we in fact camped out at a friend's office. So we didn't pay any office space, office rent for a while. We just kept cranking out demos after demos, and pitched it to Wells Fargo, pitched it to Citibank, and no one cared. And that's okay, because all we were doing was this tight iteration loop. We learned that, right? Like, you need to get to product market fit. And slowly by slowly, we finally reached a place of understanding. So what we were trying to build was this, I would almost call it like a Groupon competitor. And the reality is no one cares about that. But in the process of building that, we built out this technology layer of tracking payments at stores in real time. And we learned that that was valuable, and people liked that. And so we decided to build an API, right, which is, I guess, a server-based product where, like Twilio or like Stripe, they power a layer of your service. So if you want to send text messages, you use Twilio, because that's so insanely hard. You would never think about building it yourself, but it exists and they make it easy. So that's what we did. We signed a partnership with First Data. And who's First Data? They are one of the largest payments companies in the world. They're bigger than MasterCard and Amex combined. They're just sitting one layer below that. And so when you swipe your card at every big box retailer, whether it's like Walmart or Safeway or whatever, the only one, strangely, they don't have is Bed Bath & Beyond. And no one's really explained to me why that's a holdout, but they have every major retailer in the US. We launched at South by Southwest and TechCrunch Disrupt, which was awesome. It was a hell of an experience. And so this is CardSpring in the wild. That's an integration with Foursquare. We launched with Retail Me Not at South by Southwest. And the idea is that we let you save offers to your credit card. And so if you're on a date, you can pay for it, and she doesn't need to know you're a cheapskate. That's great. But what's really more valuable about the service is that if you're Subway, you can't really advertise online. Like, what does that mean? No one can buy a sandwich off Google AdWords, right? That just doesn't work. But you have this large digital budget. You have a lot of money that you commit to doing Google AdWords or Facebook or Twitter. And there's no way to track it. So our technology secretly was basically this way for large advertisers to track their online spend into the offline world. And so that's what was actually so cool about it. What happened? So we raised $12 million from Excel and Greylock, so that was awesome. So that cheat code of doing the EIR kind of worked. We hired an incredible team, again, consistent. So working on a big vision and working with great VCs helps you, pull together a great team. So that was awesome. We did large sales cycles with all the major companies, like Facebook, Yahoo, everyone who does local, which is basically everyone. We were acquired by Twitter in 2014, which was awesome. That was a great outcome for us. And so quickly, why we did that, we were doing a partnership with them, and they wanted to escalate it. And ultimately, we thought it made sense. There was total vision alignment. We felt like they would put afterburners on what we were doing. We were totally in it together, which was great. We felt like together it would be better than them plus us. It'd be just much more effective. They have an amazing team. Actually, some of the best engineers people I've ever worked with work at Twitter. And there was just a potential for big impact. Like, when you start something, there's no more rewarding feeling or addictive feeling than having an impact in the world or having a friend use what you built. And so for us, that was very important. I also live 2 blocks away from Twitter. And that was a consideration as well. Takeaways: dream big and work with incredible people. I think this is the most important thing you can learn from me if you do learn nothing else. Top tier investors matter. When we were going through the acquisition process, they back channel to other companies in the Valley. They made a bidding process. Like it's great. But they're top tier investors for a reason, right? You work with incredible people who push you. They've had success. You can learn from their lessons. It's a real privilege to be able to do that. Maybe less important, but other lessons. Decision-making at big companies is incredibly complex and opaque, really. So if you're trying to do a business deal with Facebook, you have no idea how that decision is actually being made. And being able to identify who the decision makers are, what the process is actually quite complicated. We were doing a deal with Twitter with this PM. She was kind of leading, Twitter's a product-driven org, and so her name is Mitali. She was leading the charge, and then eventually, during the process, she quit Twitter. And suddenly we didn't have someone who was advocating for us. So it took a whole another year before Twitter came back to the table with us. So it's kind of a long process. It can be a long process depending on the company. And maybe something you guys already know, but small teams of engineers can out-execute big companies. This is surprising to me, but when you're going up against a Visa or a MasterCard or whatever, and you think it's this giant, massive company, the reason startups work is because you're more efficient, you're more focused, and there's just less overhead of making 5 people row in the same direction than 500. And so this was a real lesson to me. Is our shitty little company actually made moves and really pushed the big companies at a speed that they really couldn't keep up with us at, which was great. And platforms, this is another thing about APIs, so for Stripe or Twilio or anything like this. When you're a platform like this, you scale quickly because people build on top of you and they bring all their users, but you sacrifice control. So if you're an API and you're not consumer touching, the reality is that you can't control what people do. Maybe they're gonna build a crappy app and no one will like it, or their developer won't really prioritize it. So it's kind of a complicated situation. Anyway, so fun story from CardSpring. This is at TechCrunch Disrupt. Let's see if we can hear this.
So how do you do what you do with the merchant and reconciling and the reward? Is it a CardSpring integration, or are you doing something else?
There's a variety of sources that we're using. CardSpring is one of them to get us to one payment provider, but we're also aggregating data from a couple of places. So we can get not just data moving forward, but we can get past data, and not just data for our users, but for all the transactions within that business. So we could do comparisons. So for example, we could tell a business their average spend per customer not on Cardify and their average spend per customer on Cardify, and they can see the delta and make a decision if Cardify is actually driving value.
All right, so he was the founder and CEO of something called Cardify. It was built on top of the CardSpring platform, but it didn't work out for him. So he started another company, which I'm assuming a few of you are using right now. It's called Tinder. Yeah, so again, I get 10% royalties on any matches you have. All right, so Excel, great. So how did it happen? We were, actually, so after the acquisition, I was approached by a VC, kind of a mid-tier VC, I'd heard of them and whatnot, and I was very flattered because when you look at me, I'm an engineer, and typically engineers don't go into venture, or people don't think engineers could go into venture. And I was super flattered, but I turned him down because I didn't think I'd be set up for success. I didn't know if I'd be good as an investor, and I didn't know if I'd like it, and it seemed like a major career change. And so I just thought, let me try it out on my own first. Let me go to Twitter and do well there, but let me go find a mentor. So I found a mentor who had done a lot of angel investing. He was one of my friends. I just looked at my first degree network, and he might not be the most famous investor, but he'd done a lot, and very generous with his time and gave me a framework to think about. And I started making investments. So I invested my own money, and I went out and kind of put it out in the world. And again, that lesson from Berkeley, what I said is you kind of have to go out and get what you want. You have to ask for it. It's not going to come to you. I started going to angel investment conferences. I started talking to investors, and one of these investors was Andrew Bracha. Andrew Bracha was the one I pitched at Betable. He was the one who funded CardSpring. And then we were having lunch, and I threw it out there that I was doing these kind of investments. And I never really thought that he'd be like, oh, well, why don't you come to Excel? Because I'd always put them so up here. But again, it's just put it out in the world and see what happens. And he didn't laugh at me. He was actually like, if you're really serious, like, why don't you come spend a day with me? And that led to a very long interview process, 10 months, Jesus. They really put me through it. But the thought process I had through that was, I think I'd proved it to myself. I'd made 8 to 10 investments. I felt like I could do the job. I felt like my superpower, strangely enough, wasn't engineering, it was relationships, and it's something I'd been very good at. And I thought, being an investor really is just spending time with people, and it's, if you can use whatever your superpower is, if it's creativity, whatever it is, if you can just build your career around that, that seems to me like a recipe for success, which is why I did that. And I was set up for success, very different than the first opportunity that had come up. I had a strong mentor in Andrew. I had people who were there to support me. It was a great platform. Obviously, Excel is one of the most well-known VCs in the world. And we were aligned on my impact and scope. It's a career change. There's obviously some anxiety associated with it, but we had so many discussions about where I was going to make an impact and what I was going to do. So anyways, a couple things that I bring to the table. I have a unique technical background, and I thought that might actually come in handy. Although I think most of the times it's a product real decision. I don't know that you find a lot of extremely hard engineering things, but I thought it's at least a form of differentiation. And I had really interesting networks. I mean, strangely enough, Twitter and Berkeley, I didn't really think of it at the time, but those are real assets to have. Like, being from this ecosystem is a real asset to have, because the thought process in the venture community is that a lot of great companies are going to come from Berkeley. And I'd seen success and failure. It's not like I've had this rosy path. I've had ups, I've had downs, I've seen some success, but I've been there when things aren't going well and try to pivot and make something of it. So I thought I'd seen all of it. So anyways, what happened? I joined in May as an early stage partner focused on messaging, social, fintech, and VR, and maybe some esports, we'll see. And looking out for the next great company. So I hope one of you starts it and lets me fund it. That'd be great. That'd be amazing. And takeaways. Number 1, make moves. This is kind of my general purpose in life, or general advice in life. I had no plan, I'm going to go be a VC at Excel. That's not a plan you can have, because there's just no plan you can make for that. But I just started making moves. I started investing. I started going to conferences. And you'd be surprised. If you start making moves, you're better than 90% of people out there. Most people just let things happen to them. You need to go out and put some energy into the world, and you'd be surprised what that can translate into. It's crazy. Understand what your superpower is. I think that I really spent time to think about what made me special and what do I do better than anyone in this room, And at Twitter, I felt that there were better engineers than me. And so I quickly kind of was like, well, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's something else. Don't necessarily jump at the first opportunity. I think I could have easily gone to the first place and been really excited about it, but find the right one, I think, is the most important thing. And learn how to learn. By the way, this is the most important skill, and I'm going to date myself really badly here. The iPhone did not exist when I was in college, okay? So iPhone development is most of what engineers do today. If I was relying on learning that at UC Berkeley, I'd be shit out of luck, right? And forget about Dockerization, containerization, React Native, all the other things out there now. So whatever you've learned here is great, but just understand, particularly in technology, shit evolves so quickly that you really need to get in the process of learning. And so Excel, it's a brand new career for me. Learning how to learn is the most important thing you can have in life anyways. So that's the talk. Thank you. All right. I'm all right.
So someone was saying how, I guess Iklika talked about trust and how important trust is in an entrepreneur. And I think that you exhibited an incredible amount of trust in your audience, because you have shared really more than I've ever seen anybody share in all our years of doing this. So thank you very, very much.
I'm a classic oversharer, actually. That's personality
I have
flaw.
to tell you, when you said that they put you through through the test when you're interviewing with Excel, I'm just wondering if they took you out for lunch. Did you have any ribs? How hard was it? Because I really think that was the worst.
I have
I've
never
heard.
gone back to Armadillo Willie's ever. I'm never going there again. And I think that I'm probably banned after what I did in the bathroom afterwards.
So in the spirit of sharing, I'm happy to ask you questions, but I thought we would just go ahead and open it up to you guys because I'm sure you have questions. So Anna and Travis are right and left here. So we'll start in the back for once. Yes, back row back there, or in the middle, and then we'll go to the back. Forgive me.
Hi, Amit. Thanks for coming out today. I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, lately we've seen the rise of a lot of student-run VC firms, like Dorm Room Fund or The House here.
Yep.
Wanted to get your thoughts on that. And secondly, would you buy Twitter stock right now?
Good question. So no, the first one is, first of all, I love The House. I love Jeremy. I think he's incredible. I'm a big fan of his. Like we've been working together actually to pull together alumni and do dinners like every 2 weeks. Like he's one of my favorite people. I love that movement, and I think you guys are very privileged to be in an institution where you're seeing this kind of groundswell of entrepreneurship infrastructure, whether it's the House, whether it's the Sutharja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, whether it's Founders Pledge, Skydeck, whatever have you. I think those are great resources. Jeremy knows what he's talking about. I would spend lots of time with him, as much time as you possibly can. But I think it's also just infectious being in that atmosphere where you're seeing other entrepreneurs there, and that energy, I think that's one of the kind of like underrated factors of being in a co-working space is, starting a company is hard and you're gonna have bad days, but when you're kind of doing it in a group, like a YC class or a co-working space, I think it's really energizing, so it's great. Twitter is a weird one, right? So I own Twitter stock today, right? And I would say, like, on one hand, you would say that maybe they're not innovating fast enough, and so maybe you should get out and go to a different company. But on the other hand, I don't know that it's ever been more relevant. I mean, world diplomacy is happening on Twitter today, right? Like, it's insane. And so part of me thinks that whatever mechanism we have of evaluating companies is just flawed, and that Twitter is worth a hell of a lot more, and we just don't know properly how to value it. I don't know. It's a tough one.
We have a question right here, and then we'll go to the back row.
Amit, thanks for being so open to us. Just curious, what are some of your most important habits that you have on a daily basis that you go through?
Most important habits. Well, I think the most important habit is honestly self-reflection. I really try to spend time at the end of every year or the beginning of every year. See, you're lucky when you're in school because there's semesters, and when you have semesters, there's like a natural ebb and flow to your life, right? You have finals, you start over, it's great. There are no finals in the real world. Like, you wake up, it's 4 years later, you're like, what the fuck, right? Like, it goes by so fast. Like that moment when you realize you've been out of school.
I just want you to know that your parents are in the audience and you're on Facebook Live.
Well, that's all right.
Just thought by.
No surprise. That moment when you wake up and you're like, I've been out of college as long as I was in college is like the most terrifying moment of your life, right? You can't deny just being old at that point. And so I think having some fixed point in your life, and so I do it at the end of every year and like the new year, just thinking about like what are the things, like just kind of a reset, like course correcting. I think the biggest problem biggest problem or I guess fear I have is being complacent and just kind of going down one path because it's the easiest. And I think it's important to always reinvent yourself and think those things. And like so for this year, like the thing I'm trying to change is I'm trying to get up at 6 a.m. every day, which sounds crazy because I used to get up at like 12 when I was at Berkeley, right? Like I was just this is not gonna happen. But I think actually like being a morning person is incredibly valuable, particularly in the real world, because no one bothers you at 6 a.m. You can get through all the stuff you wanna do because otherwise it's hard to find time for the personal habits that you want. I think it's super important to go to the gym frequently. And it's just hard, if you try to go in the evening, God bless you if you can do it. I can't. There's happy hours, there's like dinners, there's something that comes up, you stay late at work, and so going in the morning is actually very helpful.
Hi, thanks. So 2 questions. One, how do you find the best co-founders? And are those people you know, or those people you don't know? Like, how do you optimize for that? And then a second question, and I guess maybe you don't have to share this one if you don't want, but like, what does it look like when a company fails? And like, especially if it's your company, you're emotionally invested, like when you actually say, screw it. And how do you make that judgment call when do you bail, especially if you have employees who are relying on you? Do you know it before, but do you keep things going?
Right.
So I guess that process, especially since, like you said, that's 90%, 95% of the outcomes is actually failure. So what that looks like.
Sure. So the first one is, it's a hard question to answer. Where do you find a great co-founder? It's like me asking, where do you find a great girlfriend? It's really, there's like all sorts of weird ways that happens. I would say like friend of a friend is like kind of a loose connection's typically the best way, probably for both of those. You want to be careful with a close friend. I mean, sometimes it can turn out really well, and I think in most of the well-documented cases, like Snapchat had a founder lawsuit, Twitter had a founder lawsuit, Facebook had a founder lawsuit. Like founder lawsuits are a thing. And so I would say that, think of a co-founder like it's a serious relationship. You're getting married to this person basically, and the divorce is going to be painful. And so put the same amount of thought and effort that you would in terms of getting in a serious relationship, Work with them for a couple weeks, see what that's like, Just don't join up with someone because they have a great reputation. Like work with them, do reference checks. At CardSpring, before I joined, there was one co-founder I didn't know. I called 5 people that had worked with him previously, So do your diligence, I think, is what I would say. And what does a company look like when it's failing? It's sad and it's emotionally challenging. I think it's super important. It's kind of you find out what you're like in the worst of times, right? And I think there's this real desire if you're a CEO and you've hired. Let me just tell you something. Hiring someone is terrifying, right? Like it's fine. Like I was like, okay, look, I'll be fine, but I'm hiring this person. Like maybe they have a mortgage, maybe they have 2 kids. Like it's terrifying to say, yeah, you should join my company. Like that's terrifying. And so when things are not going well, you're scared. And there's this temptation so easy to just pretend everything's fine and not tell people. And so that's a real danger. And so I would say that you need to treat everybody with honor and respect. And you need to be transparent. And you need to be transparent with your investors. You need to be transparent with your employees. And you need to help people make the right decisions for them. But it's a challenging thing, particularly for someone like me or the people in this room who aren't really used to failure, right? You were great in high school. You're here at Berkeley. Like clearly life's going okay, right? And when you start a company, like particularly if your self-worth is tied in how successful you've been in winning and just being good at school, right? And supposedly that translates to being good at life. It's a really difficult, I think, psychological thing to kind of confront. Like, hey, this is failure. And for a lot of people, it's their first time failing. So I think it's just open. It's really important to have a strong co-founder with you, going back to the first point, and just being honest and transparent with everyone.
You had said that with your first company, you would look for a co-founder who had marketing skills, right? Yeah. Someone who was different. Yeah. You didn't mention that for the second 2 companies. I'm just curious if that changed or you still look for someone.
No, I mean, I think that the skills, so my co-founder Chris at Betable is like one of the best salespeople I've ever met. Like he's incredible. He can sell ice to an Eskimo. He was exceptional at fundraising. He had an incredible network. He could meet anyone he needed to. And so I think it is important to find people with disparate skills. I think that is a very valuable thing. And I mean, if you're an engineer, it's the easiest thing in the world. Just because like there's a million dudes without a tech co-founder, a million founders who are looking for someone like you. You just have to be thoughtful about who you join and what mission you're passionate about. That is, by the way, another thing I would say is like there's so much like glory on being the CEO or starting a company. Like joining a company is a great way to get indoctrinated into entrepreneurship. You can work with someone who has a little bit more experience than you. You can learn so much. Joining a company as like the first or second person, there's so much honor in that. We don't really talk about it. We don't. They do just as well financially, trust me. The first engineer at Facebook's very happy right now. But, that's how you like legitimize a movement. I mean, there's a great TED talk on this actually where it talks about the first guy is like this crazy person and he gets all the credit, but it's really the first person who joins him who legitimizes the whole movement.
2 in the back, 1 in the front. We'll start there.
Okay. Okay, it's on. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. I was wondering, you're talking about when your company started to partner up with a larger company. Yep. How exactly does that work and how would the dynamics change when, as opposed to previously when you're not with that company? Also, when is it ever not a good idea to partner?
Do you mean partner or sell?
I guess sell.
Okay, so yes, definitely it can be a bad situation, right? No question. So there are a lot of founders, I think it's kind of unfair of them to say, but there are a lot of founders who like regret selling it, but no one twisted their arm, right? But for example, you lose control when you sell your company. They can decide to shut it down the next day, right? So in a sense, if you're very emotionally invested in what you've built and they sold you one vision, it's tough, right? So at Twitter, Dick Costolo was the CEO. He was incredibly supportive of us. And then there was a CEO change. Jack Dorsey came back, and he hadn't been there when the acquisition happened. And so when a new CEO comes in, priorities change, right? And so those situations can happen, and I think you just have to know that going into the situation, right? Now, how does it change, right? You asked the first question, how do things change? I mean, they change dramatically, but they don't have to, right? Like, Twitter has its own culture, and we needed to internalize that, and you don't want to be like this very different kind of entity within it. But at the same time, you need to retain kind of the cohesiveness and energy that you had, because that's honestly what they're looking for as well, right? I would say the other difference is, people parrot this startup in a big company. Like, it's almost always a lie whenever you hear it, let me tell you. When you have a startup, you can go as long as you can go, right? No one can ever really tell you to stop, and there's 1 trillion people in the world who could fund you. You just have to find one. But when you're inside of a big company, you can't just go as long as you want. They can tell you to stop, and you kind of have to listen. And you have one person who can fund you, and that's like the CEO, right? Because they kind of determine where the budget is spent and how much resources you're going to get. And so it can be incredibly empowering, and it was for us at Twitter. But in certain scenarios, like, you're much more hamstring in what you have to do. You lose control.
Thank you.
Cool.
Sure, I guess.
The mic situation is.
Two in the back and right.
Who has the mic right now?
Can you all skip? Can you get a mic, or can someone get a mic?
Who has the mic right now?
I do.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So you failed twice, and how did you decide after failing twice that you want to have another try at this thing?
Well, I felt like I was. So go ahead.
Did this turn off? In the spirit of Twitter, question: short or long Snapchat?
Okay, so number one, I would say that I felt like I was continually learning, and I felt like, it's like, I'm stealing this from Andrew Mason, but I felt like I was playing Mario Brothers and I died on level 1, and then level 4, I was figuring it out. Like, I felt like I had a formula which was working. I'd found incredible people to work with, and I felt like the opportunity was incredibly compelling. And honestly, each time I started a company, I think I thought of the downside case. And at CardSpring, I was like, I'm going to have an amazing team. We're going to get funded by top tier VCs. Like, what's really the downside here? We're going to start, we're going to get funding. I didn't realize that we'd have 9 months of no pay, but I figured I would make like a legitimate salary. I wouldn't be sacrificing too much. As far as Snapchat, I'm definitely long. I think there are very few companies which have shown that track record of innovation and a desire to disrupt themselves. I mean, I put them on a very short list of, say Amazon or Netflix or Google or Facebook, of companies that are really pushing the envelope. I heard a great quote the other day, which is that Evan Spiegel is the VP of product for Facebook. Oh, come on. All right, but in any case, he's a savant. He's really pushing the boundaries of product, and I think that's what you can bet on.
We're going to take one more question, and then I know Amit is kind enough that he is going to stay after if you all want to ask questions later. So we're going to go here, and then you can come up to the stage.
So you seem like someone who likes creating companies and starting stuff. You started 3 companies. Yeah. You like building stuff, but now you're a venture capitalist. Like, you work with startups and you see them grow. But how is it like not being in the driver's seat? Like, you're not making stuff on your own. You're just watching other people make their baby.
Totally.
Like, how does it feel to just yeah?
You can stop now. No, the reality is you have to let go when you move into management. Right? So at Twitter, I moved into management, and even at Betable, it's different when you're just kind of in the thick of things. But at Twitter, when you move into management, one of the keys is you got to let go. And your success is in the success of your people, and through empowering them. And so I would say that being a venture capitalist is the same, except maybe like an order of magnitude more removed from the situation. I think you can still take a lot. It's more of a coaching mindset, right? And I think I take a lot of pleasure in that. I think it's a really fascinating job. It's a real privilege to be at a 30,000-foot view and look at how industries are moving. So you're right. I mean, there are days where I miss being in the thick of things and leading a team directly, but last night having dinner with an entrepreneur that I funded and giving him advice and coaching him on that, it's just as rewarding for me.
Thank you for being rewarding for us.
Thank you.